Howdy. Welcome to Transparency Over Every Speculation. You can call me T.O.E.S. My purpose with this video here is to once again highlight the inconsistencies and the lack of transparency here. With the first clip I'm going to be playing here, it's from a news reporter, and it was taken January 5th, 2023, right after they apprehended Bryan Kohberger. Just pay attention to the date and the agency in this video here, and then we'll come back to talk.
We also learned from the affidavit that Pullman police tracked down the suspect's car to these apartments right here on November 25th. And when Pullman police tracked the plates on that car, Bryan Kohberger appeared as the registered owner.
November 25th, huh? So you're telling me that the Pullman Police Department became aware of Bryan Kohberger before the Moscow Police Department, and they held on to that information for a few weeks until they put out the bolo of the white Hyundai Elantra from the year range of 2011 to 2013, which they broadcasted on December 7th, which I'll show in a clip here.
Breaking news in the investigation into the murders of the 4 University of Idaho students. Detectives announced just minutes ago that they are interested in talking to the person or people in a white 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra.
Yeah, they don't have a license plate number. That's an Elantra, but you're looking at a stock photo of the type of car they are looking for. Moscow police say the car was near the home where 3 of the students lived during the early morning hours of November 13th. That's the day the bodies of the 4 students, Ethan Chapin, Xana Kernodle, Madison Mogan, and Kaylee Gonsalves, were discovered.
Moscow police say the person or people in that car may have critical information regarding the case. They're asking anyone with information about the car or who was driving it on either the day of or day before the murders to call their tip line at the number. We have that information at ktvb.com.
With this next clip that I added, it's just to add context to show who the lead detective was, which we all know is Brett Payne.
And I'd be prepared to call my next witness.
Okay, go ahead.
Call Brett Payne.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Please come forward. Raise your right hand.
You solemnly swear that the testimony you give in this case shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury?
I do. All right, thank you, sir. Please have a seat. And then when you're seated, please state your name and spell your last.
Name is Brett Payne, last spelled P-A-Y-N-E.
All right, thank you, sir. Ms. Taylor.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
Will you tell us your occupation?
I am currently employed by the Moscow Police Department as the detective corporal.
What experience do you have prior to Moscow Police Department?
I was served in the military for 6 years. 3 of those were as a commissioned officer in the military police corps.
How long have you been with Moscow Police Department?
6 years.
We're here to talk about the case of the state of Idaho versus Bryan Kohberger. Have you worked on that case?
Yes, ma'am.
What is your role in that case?
I was assigned as the case agent for Moscow PD for that investigation.
Does case agent mean you're the person in charge?
Yes, ma'am.
If I called you the lead detective, would that be a term that was the same thing as person in charge and
Yes,
case
ma'am.
agent?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Now this next clip is from the same date, May 30th, 2024 trial, and this is where some of the lies begin, as far as the inconsistencies with the date of when they first came across Bryan Kohberger.
Does December 20th, 2022 sound familiar to you?
Yes, ma'am.
And so this conversation with this officer from Washington, it related backwards to when he noticed an Elantra, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
But when he noticed it, you didn't know about that yet. Is that also correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so you don't know about him or talk to him until December 20th, 2022, correct?
Yes, ma'am. That's correct.
We also learned from the affidavit that Pullman police tracked down the suspect's car to these apartments right here on November 25th. And when Pullman police tracked the plates on that car, Bryan Kohberger appeared as the registered owner.
Now what we have here is from a reading of the transcript of the closed hearing on January 23rd, 2025. It is not my voice. It will be read in the voice of Lana and Bella. So don't confuse Brett Payne's feminine voice for Lana's and Bella's.
And when was the first time you heard Brian Kohberger's name?
The first time I heard Brian Kohberger's name was December 19th, 2022.
And what was that a result of?
That was a result of investigative genetic genealogy that was being undertaken by the FBI. We had a phone call that evening, and we were told Brian Kohberger's name.
And before that, Mr. Kohberger was not on your radar?
No, ma'am.
We also learned from the affidavit that Pullman police tracked down the suspect's car to these apartments right here on November 25th. And when Pullman police tracked the plates on that car, Brian Kohberger appeared as the registered owner.
Oh, excuse me, my bad. Now they're saying it's December 23rd, 2022 when Brian Kohberger first came under their radar.
Okay. Well, I'll try to hit that as hard as I can then. Your Honor, in this case, there were a lot of search warrants. I'm going to draw the court's attention to those beginning on December 23rd. That day is important because it was just a few days prior to that for the first time ever, Brian Kohberger's name came up in the course of this investigation. Your Honor wouldn't know that by reading the affidavits for probable cause. Nobody would know that. That's because that information is omitted from the affidavit.
We also learned from the affidavit that Pullman police tracked down the suspect's car to these apartments right here on November 25th. And when Pullman police tracked the plates on that car, Brian Kohberger appeared as the registered owner.
But those are put in there to try to bolster up this investigation and say it was something that it wasn't. Probably the worst part of that is relying on, after the BOLO went out for 2011 to 13 Elantra.
Breaking news in the investigation into the murders of the 4 University of Idaho students, detectives announced just minutes ago that they are interested in talking to the person or people in a white 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra.
Yeah, they don't have a license plate number. That's an Elantra, but you're looking at a stock photo of the type of car they're looking for. Moscow police say the car was near the home where 3 of the students lived during the early morning hours of November 13th. That's the day the bodies of the 4 students, Ethan Chapin, Xana Kernodle, Madison Mogan, and Kaylee Gonsalves, were discovered.
Then WSU, Washington State University, officers find cars. They find one that's registered to Brian Kohberger, parked at the apartments he lived in, but it was a 2015 Elantra, and so they don't really do much with it. But this is placed, that is placed in the affidavit like it was an investigative fact, and it wasn't. It was on the 20th of December when the lead detective, got a hold of WSU police and found out about that and said, oh, hey, you called this in. He didn't know about that before, but there's no context around that. That's just stacked in there like it creates probable cause when it doesn't.
So, hopefully you guys get the point that I'm trying to put across here with this video. The inconsistencies, the lack of transparency, and the flat out lies. It's sort of like, at the beginning, both roommates that survived were asleep on the first floor, didn't hear anything, didn't see anything, and then look where we are today. Well, I'm going to play this last clip for kicks and giggles. I want to thank you all for tuning in to Transparency Over Every Speculation, and don't forget, you can call me T.O.E.S. Have a blessed day, y'all.
Good morning.
Morning, ma'am.
Could you please state your name and spell your last for the record?
Brett Payne, last is spelled Payne.
And what's your title?
I'm the Detective Corporal for Moscow Police Department.
Can you tell the court, I know you testified yesterday, but it was a different hearing, and so just to lay a little bit of foundation, can you tell the court your background in law enforcement?
So I've been with Moscow Police Department for almost 7 years now. Prior to that, I was in the active duty military for 6. 3 of those were as a commissioned officer in the military police corps.
What is your role in this case?
I was assigned lead detective in this particular investigation.
And so as lead detective, can you explain from your perspective what that has meant that you have done?
Certainly. So it was my responsibility to basically view this investigation from a 30,000-foot view, if you will. Directly, it's the teams that were assigned to various tasks, and then take in all that information, synthesize it, put it back out to our group, and then eventually consolidate it into an affidavit.